Hey everyone, welcome back to Nine Talks Boxing. Um, I just wanted to make a quick video today, talking about an announcement that I saw fairly recently. I don't believe this fight's been officially announced, but it was announced that there have been serious negotiations for this fight, and this is a fight that's kind of came from the aftermath of the 5v5 card at the weekend between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. Um, so it's looking like it's going to be scheduled in September, Wembley Stadium, and Dubois has really kind of set himself up for this fight. But both are in very good form at the moment. Anthony Joshua coming off that big knockout over Francis Ngannou last time out over in Saudi, and of course Daniel Dubois the other day just coming off a rather, in some cases, surprise win over Philip Kurgovich. I mean, the fight got stopped on cuts, but he was bossing that fight for the most part. Um, and, it's on good grounds to be made this fight because we've seen how the Saudi cards have opened up the negotiations between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. I mean, obviously, we just had the cards at the weekend, so they're a lot more open to negotiating where each of them are on these kinds of fights. And you'd imagine with Frank Warren's big win over the weekend over Eddie Hearn, you'd imagine Eddie wants to try and get one back in this fight. But it's a good fight progression wise for both, probably. More so for I don't know who it's more so for. You'd probably argue more so for Dubois, but at the same time, Dubois has already got his mandatory spot with the IBF, arguably. So then again, he's putting something on the line as well. The thing AJ's probably putting on the line though is I'd also argue he's next in line for the winner of Usyk Fury 2. So both of these guys are going to have a lot to lose in this fight. Sometimes I forget that Daniel Dubois is 26 years old because if you look at the amount of kind of tasks that he's had, challenges he's faced at this age, he's almost like a seasoned vet at this point. But I think he's starting to come into his own, and in some ways, Joshua's got back his fire as well. We've seen his last two performances; he's got back what made him very effective in his prior years, which we'd kind of seen was lost after the Ruiz fight. And he seems to have got back his mojo. So this is an interesting fight. Obviously, it's an all British fight, which is always good to see. And the fact that it's looking like it's going to be at Wembley is going to be pretty cool. And we know how much Joshua, how well Joshua does at selling out Wembley and stuff. So it probably makes sense. I mean, I don't mind where these fights are held personally. I just want to see them happen, but it's a bonus if you can get them in the UK. And yeah, let's talk about these guys' form. So Joshua is coming off two wins. Well, he's coming off multiple wins. It's second Usyk loss, but the most notable ones are his past two. Because after the Usyk loss, obviously he had the wins over Jermaine Franklin and Robert Helenius, but he didn't look particularly great in those. But his past two over Otto Wallen and Francis Ngannou, they really put him back onto the scene, I'd argue, and a lot of people who were previously doubting him are giving him a good shot again now. So he's really turned the tables in that sense, and he's got a lot more momentum behind his career again now, compared to, let's say, a year ago even. It just shows how much those performances put on. And one thing I really like about these two guys, these two fighters, is their activity. And we've seen with these two guys alone, AJ and Daniel Dubois, is that activity is one of the most important things for your career, both for momentum and for your performances as well. Obviously, we've seen Daniel Dubois, um, after he's lost to Usyk, he came and answered a lot of questions um, against Jarrell Miller, and then the other night he had that very important fight for the IBF interim title against Filip Hrgovic, who could have sat on his ranking, but he chose to give Dubois a chance. And Dubois, he could have he showed a lot again in this fight. He certainly didn't show a lot of defense early on, which is going to be something concerning going into this fight. But he showed, because he was taking a lot of right hands early, and I think before that, beforehand, he would have panicked at that. But I think his own resolve, having been able to get through that Jarrell Miller fight, um, when he hasn't been able to in prior times, and also the work he's been doing with Don Charles on that side. I think Don Charles is really good for that side, those side of things. Um, has really benefited him. But I see this fight going one way. You can probably imagine which one way I see it going, but I think it's a good fight, and it's good to see both staying really active. And it's a healthy change for the heavyweight division, and that's really been helped by Riyadh season and Saudi boxing. The only concern about that is when Riyadh season ends, whether these guys are going to go back into inactivity, because they'll be so used to having these paydays and stuff that when they stop and when it dries up, who knows what they're going to do. But yeah, I just wanted to give you my thoughts on this fight that's in serious negotiations between AJ and Dubois, and let me know your thoughts on this fight in the comments, and thanks for tuning in.